Hey everybody and welcome back. In today's video we are going to be going through the Onn 12.1 inch Pro. Basically I'm going to be doing an overview showing you what it's like to use the product, giving you a hands-on review of my experience with the device after owning it for a couple of weeks. I'll also cover specs, what it's like to use it, pros, cons, etc. So let's go ahead and jump into a close-up of the device and some of the specs and go from there. All right, so I have the device pulled up here. We're going to go through a couple of different things. I'm going to start out with the basics such as price and high-level specs, and then I'm going to go into a more technical spec overview, and then lastly, I'll just cover my general thoughts on apps and build quality and potential quirks. So starting up, you'll see a split screen window set up here with settings up top and then the Google Chrome app down below. Now, I have this pulled up on the Walmart website. I've typed in a random address just to show that it is in stock. And you'll see for the gray color, it's currently at $217 even in the US. Now, we have it available across the board for delivery, pickup, and shipping. And if we scroll through, you'll see this is going to be sold and shipped by Walmart. And we have a couple of specs here at a glance, but I'm going to scroll down a bit more to the actual spec list. So we have a couple of things to cover here. So first and foremost, the primary reason I purchased this is I think this in the price range is the best option as far as your screen resolution and overall specs like processor and RAM and total storage. So let's go into some details here. You'll see that for this tablet, we have a 12.1 inch screen, which is very, very impressive, and it's for this size and quality. So it's a 12.1 inch LCD touchscreen, and you'll see that we have a 2560 by 1600 resolution, and it really is impressive. Now, we do have a 2.2 gigahertz octa-core processor. More on that in a separate video where I'll compare this to the A9 Plus just to give you some benchmarks. But we have 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of flash storage, and then you'll see that we also have up to 15 hours of battery life, 5 megapixel front-facing camera, which is right here, relatively small cutout, and then an 8 megapixel rear-facing camera. So if we flip it over, you'll see it's right up here. Now, if we continue to go through, you'll see we have a couple of other items such as 4 speakers, 20-watt fast charging, fast Wi-Fi 6, and a 1-year warranty. So general overview, and I really, really like a couple of things here. So the main thing to note, in my opinion, is that when we're scrolling through, we have the MediaTek G99 processor, it's the 4th edition, and a micro SD card slot. So the main perks to cover for this device are going to be the really impressive resolution. So we have a 12.1 inch screen, pretty big tablet, honestly, relatively hard to completely fit in the frame. 6 gigs of RAM paired with this processor, which again is on the lower to, I don't even know if I would say middle end, but the fact that we have such a good resolution on a device this size with this type of RAM, expandable storage, and large storage overall is very impressive. And it does handle multitasking relatively well. So you can see the screen will adapt and kind of shift as you're clicking through things. You can use both windows almost simultaneously, but you, again, can kind of scroll through and do what you might need to do. And then we can actually switch between a multi-window and something like this benchmark, which I'll go over in a moment. And then we can actually switch back to that multi-window setup. So I really, really like how it can transition between these windows pretty quickly. Now, I do want to go into the more technical overview really, really quickly. So there's a couple of different results we can cover here, but the main thing to note is this is using Geekbench 6. So you'll get a general score for single core and multi-core, along with a general overview about how this device performs with a wide range of tasks. So you can pause the video if there's anything in here in particular that you're really interested in seeing. Now, going to single core, and I want to put a caveat on this. So this is I'm not going to say a newer processor, but newer compared to some other devices on the market. So I want you to kind of bear in mind that when we're looking at this score of 726 for single core, as we scroll down, you'll see that the lowest device down here is the S20 FE at 976. So this device does really punch a little bit below that in terms of the general speed, and you can get an idea of what processor that device is using here. But this gives you an idea of kind of how it ranks. Now, bear in mind that it is a tablet, it is larger, and it does have a lot of stuff going on as far as the actual parts are concerned. And considering it's at that, I think $217, I believe I purchased mine around the 180 mark. So comparing to an S20, I still think that that's pretty good, all things considered. Now, if we go to multi-core, you'll see that there's a lot going on here as well, but we are just below a couple of devices on this end as well, and you can compare it to the different processors, so you get an idea of really how this functions. Now, as far as applications are concerned, so it switches between relatively well. Sometimes there's very, very minor hiccups when the device opens up something else. So for example, if we click here, you'll see a minor delay. Now, outside of that, I did want to cover the actual camera itself. So when we select the camera, this is going to be kind of like your typical tablet camera. I don't love the overall quality. Again, we're looking at a 5 megapixel front facing and an 8 megapixel rear facing. So overall, we can switch the camera angle, and quality is relatively good compared to something like an I would say like an S20, probably not even that, just because again, it's only 8 megapixels. You'll have a little bit of a delay and it is a little grainy, but the screen is also much larger. So if we were to take a picture of this part of this book, you'll see that if we were to click that picture, we can pull it up relatively quickly, and you can only see so much here, but it is a little blurry even with it being this close up. So again, camera quality is not the best in my opinion. So if we were to open this back up, just covering my overall opinion, I think at the price point that I got this at, around $179 to $180, was really solid, and even now it's not terrible. There were a couple of quirks with the device when I first got it. The main thing being when I first installed, for example, there's a Bible app that I was using for like the New King James Version. And I put the icon up here in the top left, and every time I restarted the device, the icon would disappear, but the app stayed. Now, I tried putting another app icon there, and it did the same thing. I've had a couple of updates since, and it keeps all of the other icons in every other location except in the top left corner. So again, kind of a minor quirk, but worth noting because I haven't really tested to see if that's still an issue, but it is something relatively small. Now, I do want to go over build quality. So one thing that's kind of difficult to note here, but the viewing angles are very, very good. So if I were to take this device, and let's just say I put it on maximum brightness. So you'll see the brightness here, and I like how if we were to kind of rotate the device around, viewing angles remain pretty solid throughout. I don't, or at least I haven't noticed at any point that there's a certain spot that's brighter than the other. Colors seem pretty solid based on what I've used. Now, I've noticed that if you put a little bit of pressure on the screen, sometimes you'll see a light discoloration, which I haven't noticed as much in smaller devices. But again, that's a really, really minor thing, and I don't think people are going to be doing that a lot. So obviously, I would just note that there. So as far as build quality is concerned, I really, really like this device. It has this kind of almost brushed aluminum type of feel here. So it doesn't have any kind of weird texture. It's just a smooth back. We have the Onn logo, single camera, nothing major there. And then going around the sides, we have USB Type-C. We have some speaker cutouts, I believe that's what those are. You'll see that as we go around, we just kind of continue to have additional speakers, and then obviously the expandable storage, and then a couple of other options like screen lock and volume up and down. It does rotate pretty quickly, adjust an auto size, which I like. So all things considered, I think that this is a great device in this category. And the closing comments I think that I would have to make with this would be, if we were to compare this with a device like an A9 Plus, you're going to bear in mind that you're going to have slightly different software compared to devices like that. So there are going to be some minor changes that exist outside of just the hardware. But I think that this has some very impressive specs. So I would love to know your thoughts in the comment box below. And I'll put links to the comparison video and my unboxing video in the description. And I'll see you all in the next video.